My friends, we are back for the next 2 chapters of The Tiger Rising. Okay? Chapter 3. Nobody wore pink lacy dresses to school. Nobody. Even Rob knew that. He held his breath as he watched the girl walk down the aisle of the bus. Here was somebody even stranger than he was sure. "Hey," Norrin called. "This is a school bus." "I know it," the girl said. Her voice was gravelly and deep, and the words sounded clipped and strange, like she was stamping each one of them out with a cookie cutter. "You're all dressed up to go to a party," Billy said. "This ain't a party bus." He elbowed Rob in the ribs. "Ha!" Norton laughed. He gave Rob a friendly thud on the head. The girl stood in the center of the aisle, swaying with the movement of the bus. She stared at them. "It's not my fault you don't have good clothes," she said finally. She sat down and put her back to them. "Hey," said Norton, "we're sorry. We didn't mean nothing." "Hey," he said again. "What's your name?" The girl turned and looked at them. She had a sharp nose and a sharp chin and black eyes. "Sistine," she said. "Sistine," hooted Billy. "What kind of stupid name is that?" "Like the chapel," she said slowly, making each word strong and clear. Rob stared at her amazed. "What are you looking at?" she said to him. Rob shook his head. "Yeah," said Norton. He cuffed Rob on the ear. "What are you staring at, disease boy? Come on," he said to Billy. And together they swaggered up the aisle of the bus and sat in the seat behind the new girl. They whispered things to her, but Rob couldn't hear what they were saying. He thought about the Sistine Chapel. He had seen a picture of it in the big art book that Mrs. Dupree kept in the small shelf behind her desk at the library. The pages of the book were slick and shiny, and each picture made Rob feel cool and sweet inside, like a drink of water on a hot day. Mrs. Dupree let Rob look at the book because he was quiet and good in the library. It was her reward to him. In the book, like the picture from the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel showed God reaching out and touching Adam. It was like they were playing a game of tag, like God was making Adam it. It was a beautiful picture. Rob looked out the window at the gray rain and the gray sky and the gray highway. He thought about the tiger. He thought about God and Adam. And he thought about Sistine. He did not think about the rash. He did not think about his mother. And he did not think about Norton and Billy Threemonger. He kept the suitcase closed. Chapter 4. Sistine was in Rob's 6th grade homeroom class. Mrs. Soames made her stand up and introduce herself. "My name," she said in her gravelly voice, "is Sistine Bailey." She stood at the front of the room in her pink dress, and all the kids stared at her with open mouths as if she had just stepped off a spaceship from another planet. Rob looked down at his desk. He knew not to stare at her. He started working on a drawing of the tiger. "What a lovely name," said Mrs. Soames. "Thank you," said Sistine. Patrice Wilkins, who sat in front of Rob, snorted, then giggled, then covered her mouth. "I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania," Sistine said, "home of the Liberty Bell, and I hate the South because the people in it are ignorant. And I'm not staying here in Lister. My father is coming to get me next week." She looked around at the room defiantly. "Well," said Mrs. Soames, "thank you very much for introducing yourself, Sistine Bailey. You may take your seat before you put your foot in your mouth any farther." The whole class laughed at that. Rob looked up just as Sistine sat down. She glared at him. Then she stuck her tongue out at him. "Him!" He shook his head and went back to his drawing. He sketched out the tiger, but what he wanted to do was whittle it in wood. His mother had shown him how to whittle, how to take a piece of wood and make it come alive. She taught him when she was sick. He sat on the edge of her bed and watched her tiny white hands closely. "Don't jiggle that bed," his father said. "Your mama's in a lot of pain." "He ain't hurting me, Robert," his mother said. "Don't get all tired out with that wood," his father said. "It's all right," his mother said. "I'm just teaching Rob some things I know." But she said she didn't have to teach him much. His mother told him he already knew what to do. His hands knew. That's what she said. "Rob," said the teacher, "I need you to go to the principal's office." Rob didn't hear her. He was working on the tiger, trying to remember what its eyes looked like. "Robert," Mrs. Soames said. "Robert Horton." Rob looked up. Robert was his father's name. Robert was what his mother had called his father. Mr. Fellmer wants to see you in his office. Do you understand? Yes, ma'am, said Rob. He got up and took his picture of the tiger and folded it up and put it in the back pocket of his shorts. On his way out of the classroom, Jason Uttermeyer tripped him and said, "See you later, retard." And Sistine looked up at him with her tiny black eyes. She shot him a look of pure hate. And that's the end of the chapter. Bye.